I'm so flattered that Lily would do this. Her work has always had such deep meaning and resonance for us all as audiences. This part has, and the pursuit of it, which was so always a mystery to me, has brought meaning to my life, late in my life. Ain't I lucky? Yeah.
This was absolutely an inspired dream of Holland. Some thought came to her. She said she was driving one day, and she got after Anne had died, and she got the idea that someone had to do a show about Anne, and she slogged through this. I mean, having written it and paid for it, did everything all the way through, built sets, did everything, traveled the sets to different theaters, and it's really a triumph that is so absolutely deserved and to be honored. So it's just great. I'm so glad she was nominated for a Tony. And I met Anne in '83. Anne and I have the same birthday, September 1. And also Liz Carpenter, who is a great friend of Anne's, and Lady Bird's social secretary, her birthday's also September 1. Anne and Liz and I went out and did fundraisers, and because we had the same birthday, we kind of patterned it on, you know, being a medium or an astrologist, and I was Nostradamus, and we came up in these big old outfits because Anne loved to perform. Anne used to do this character, Mr. Porco of Porco Electronics. Anne would put on a pig, you know, a plastic pig's nose, and she was so damn funny. You could not believe how funny she was. Now on the trip with Liz Carpenter and me and Anne, I was third funny. Anne was even second funny because Liz Carpenter was shameless. I just felt like I'd been, you know, singled out by the cosmos that we all had the same birthday. You know. So.
Were you still in touch with her when she was in office?
Oh yeah, and I did fundraisers all through the governor deal. She was a big grassroots political activist in Texas before she ever ran for office. And I mean, she would even get up and dress as a Tampax. Did they mention that? Yes. Well, she really did. And I've seen some kind of a snapshot of it.
I love how funny she was. Just absolutely.
She was hilarious. Anne was just naturally witty. She's brainy as hell. Mm-hmm. And there was just no stopping her. I remember one day walking in Times Square, and we look up at a big portrait of somebody, and they were all airbrushed and looking just perfect. And she said, "Not one of my wrinkles ever kept me from getting anything I wanted." When Anne was going to do the keynote at the Democratic Convention, which thrust her into the national spotlight in a big way, Jane, my partner Jane Wagner, who also wrote The Search, she sent Anne the line, you know, poor George was born with a silver foot in his eye. When George W. got in office, she wrote the line, which I never got to use, damn it. "The syntax of the father is visited on the son." The keynote was really a big deal for Anne, and how anybody could ever think she wouldn't just sail right through it, because she was just dynamic, fantastic. Plus, she radiant blue eyes. I mean, and absolutely unstoppable. And so when we sat down, we were dark. We were playing the Kennedy Center, and it was dark on Monday night. So we were watching the keynote, and we couldn't believe Anne chose that line. That line just exploded. It was really phenomenal.
It was so interesting to watch her do her thing, and then Sarah Palin. And the difference.
Wouldn't that have been great?
Anne always exuded love. You know,
yeah.
There was a way that her comedy, her humor was always so loving, and it was always to move people along. I don't know about Sarah. Anyway,
I don't know what because Anne her life was kind of like superlatives. We went to a cafe and having something to eat, and here's how she'd always be, no matter what. She'd say, "Oh, this is the best cappuccino I have ever had." As long as she could say it. It was amazing. I've heard women that worked in the governor's office, she'd come out the door and say, "Isn't it wonderful?" Just, you know. So you can imagine people were buoyed up all the time, like, how could anything go wrong? This is Just so wonderful and fabulous to be here. When she was county commissioner, she was in a receiving line for like some, other politicos who are from the Texas area, and she was standing next to an African-American commissioner and named Charles Miles, and some guy came, some bigoted kind of guy, and he wouldn't shake Mr. Miles's hand. And he just went right on to Anne, and he said, "And who's this pretty little lady?" And she said, "Mrs. Charles Miles." Bill Clinton apparently was going to come and have dinner with her, and I guess he just adored her. And he was talking, a whole bunch of stuff came in, talking kind of passionately and heated, and Anne just piped up. She said, "Now, Bill, you know that's a load of crap."
I was wondering if Miss Tomlin might be able to do a ringy dingy for us.
Probably one ringy dingy. You're asking anyway. I'm actually not working for the phone company. And school, leadership school for girls in Austin, Texas. They just had their first graduating class. 100% college accepted. And I did a fundraiser one afternoon at the school and just met with the students. Of course, they had no idea who I was. But I told them that I did the voice of Miss Frizzle on Magic School Bus. They all just jumped up. Really happy that I was there. So then a little girl gets up, I swear, 9 years old, and she said, "Miss Tomlin, what do you think your work has contributed to the world?" And I was pretty dumbfounded, and it took who knows how long. I finally got together the thought, "Oh, well, I hope it makes people feel connected to one another." And she sat down. She seemed satisfied, but I thought, "Oh God, I wish she were older and knew a lot about me, and she could say, 'Well, frankly, Miss Tomlin, this is what I think.'"
Lily actually did the first one-woman show on Broadway.
Don't you remember Shirley Knott? Anyway, I said Shirley Knott. She said, "Who's Shirley Knott?"
I had the pleasure of hearing Governor Richards speak. She used to tell a story. She was running through the Capitol at one point, and she could hear her mother's voice in her ear saying, "Who do you think you're going to meet, the Queen of England?" And she thought, she said to herself, "You know the story, please?"
I just know that she did meet the Queen of England.
By the way, the answer to the little girl who asked you what you brought to the world is joy and happiness.
Oh.